Hi, this is your host, Kristen Howe, and I would like to welcome you to a very special call today with our guest, Richard A. Luck. Now, Richard A. Luck is the co-founder of New You Life Coaching and is a fully qualified NLP master trainer, hypnotherapist, and creative success coach. Because his interests stem from philosophy, spirituality, psychology, and leadership, Rick's coaching style incorporates a rare and ingenious approach to understanding and empowering you in an insanely effective manner. Because of this, he's done things such as manage businesses that turn over more than $1 million per day and has consulted for some of the largest companies in the Southern Hemisphere, including Coca-Cola and Nestle. And in his role as a creative prosperity coach and business coach, Richard has helped more than 4,000 people overcome their challenges and go on to create tremendous professional and personal breakthroughs that they didn't even realize were possible. Now, on today's call, you're going to discover why you have been struggling to achieve your most pressing and desired goals and a step-by-step process that will literally reveal exactly how you can develop exquisite relationships, abundant health, and financial success. So the real question is this: are you ready to finally take charge of your physical, emotional, and financial future and live the life you know you were meant to live? Well, Rick is here today to provide you with the springboard and the essential ingredients you need for helping you design the dream life you always wanted and manifest everything now. So, Rick, thank you for joining us today and welcome to the call.
Hey, Kristen, how you going?
It's so great to have you here.
It's a real pleasure to be here. I was just listening to you go through my introduction, and it's just fantastic. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Now, I'd love for you, and I know you want to jump into the step-by-step process, and we do too. That's why it's called Manifest Everything Now. But before you do that, just give us a quick idea of how you went from where you were to the success level that you're currently at.
Sure, no problem. I think that the biggest thing for me was that I actually had to get to bottom before I could work out what it was that I was doing wrong. Like, I think you only really discover a lot about yourself when everything turns pretty ugly and you hit the bottom, and then it seems to be at that point, that's when you can really work out how to get yourself out of the mess that you got yourself into in the first place. And it would have been about 12 years ago now. And that's exactly what happened to me. I was going along pretty well. Everything seemed to be all right. And then it just all fell apart for me. And I started asking the big questions, what was I doing wrong? Why was I here? What was my purpose? How was I going to get out of this mess that I created for myself? And then I just became absolutely passionate about finding the answers to those questions. And in doing that and finding the answers to those questions is what got me to where I am now. It's led me to find processes that are take you from the bottom to the top, and they do it really quickly and really simply. And I just love being able to help people with the processes that I've created.
That's so amazing, and I'm so excited to have you join us because, we call this whole thing Manifest Everything Now, and you're literally going to walk us through a step-by-step process to manifest our goals. Am I right about that?
I'm going to take everyone through a 5-step process, and it's mainly about creating the right kind of mindset, because that's where everything begins. But we're also going to talk a little bit about in the last step about some skill sets as well and how to find those. So by the end of the process, or by the end of this call, our listeners should be able to take those 5 steps, put them into their life in practical, usable ways, because I'm going to give you practical examples with each one, so you can actually use the processes and begin the process of changing your life.
Okay, well, I can't wait. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to give you the reins and say, go, Richard, go. So go for it, and we're all ears.
Okay, thanks heaps. I hope the Australian accent's okay as well. So let's get started. The first thing I really want to say is congratulations to everyone for showing up, because I think a lot of people don't understand just how important that is. There's really only about 5% of people actually take some action. And by being on this presentation today, or on this training, is what it's more about today. You deserve to give yourself a big pat on the back because you are taking some action and you are, in fact, putting yourself out in front of the rest of the pack. Kristen's given me a great introduction of all of the things that I've done. What's really important out of that, though, is that you understand that I'm coming from a place of real life experience. So it's not, this is not theory. This is going to be all about practical, usable information. And at the end of the day, that's the difference that really makes the difference to whether you achieve success or not. It's having that practical, usable information that's going to take your life to the next level. So over the next 60 minutes, what I want to do is take you through this 5-step process, and that will allow you to achieve greater success at whatever you apply it to. So it doesn't just have to be about finances or relationships. It can be about anything that you want. You'll be able to use the tools that I'm going to give you and be able to develop more love and more closeness in your relationships. You'll be able to experience abundant health, and you will be able to find greater success when you understand and apply the principles from this process that I'm about to share with you. When I was back in my mid-teens, I learned an incredibly valuable lesson that served me well in all my life. I was fortunate enough to have a next-door neighbour who was a multi-millionaire. And this was back in the 70s, so I guess I'm giving my age away a little bit, but back in the 70s, $1 million was a lot of money, let alone multi-millions. And I have to tell you that I was absolutely fascinated with him and how he'd managed to earn that much money. In fact, I was so extremely curious that all I wanted to do was talk to him at every chance I could get to find out how he'd done it. You know, I don't know if you've ever been fascinated or extremely curious about someone before, but if you were to think about a time like that now, and then you were to multiply it by 10, you'd understand exactly how I felt when I was talking to this guy. His name was Fred, and he used to share lots of great stories with me about how he'd made his millions, and they were absolutely fascinating. And I'd sit there listening to him as he told them. I remember though, the day that I asked him, what was your single biggest secret to success? And what he told me, I actually took through for the rest of my life, and I've applied it to every single thing that I've done, and it has worked for me without fail. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share that secret with you in a little bit. But before I do, there's a fun little exercise that we're going to start with, and I'd like you to do it with me if you can. What I want you to do is to paint a picture in your mind of your ideal life. What does your ideal day look like, and how does it feel for you? Where are you living? Where are you spending all your time? How are you using your time? Now, this might not come as a big surprise, but I would say that almost everyone I speak to wants to have financial security and independence in their life. And really, when you think about it, that's what makes sense in today's world. I mean, it'd be great to have enough money to be able to put aside, to be able to cope with those rainy days that might come along, wouldn't it? You can imagine how relieving that would feel to have that kind of security in the bank. And in addition to putting the money aside for security, it would also be pretty awesome to have enough money left over at the end of the month to be able to do something that you really wanted to do. Maybe it'd be travel or ski. I'm actually a really passionate skier, so I love to go skiing at any opportunity that I can get. But that might not be for you. You might want a new car or a new house or maybe even an investment property. Whatever it is, I'm sure if you were to think about it now, you'd agree that it's something that a lot of people are actually striving for. You might even find that you're striving for that yourself. Whilst it's great to have the money, it's even better to have a loving partner to share it with, right? Imagine having the financial security and money left over every month to treat yourself and an exquisite relationship. All the love, the passion, the romance, the sex, the friendship, and the awesome bond that you've always wanted. And then imagine now taking that one step further and having the abundant health so you can enjoy both the relationship and the money to the absolute maximum. If you were to picture that kind of life, I think you'd agree with me that it would be something that many people would aspire to. So what I'm about to share with you is my simple 5-step process that when you implement it, you'll uncover and remove the blocks that are preventing you from creating that kind of life that you've just imagined. So what is this simple 5-step process that I've been talking about? I think it's about time we get into it. So let's get started. It's a process that I've been developing and refining over my entire life. And I've been teaching it to my top private clients for a number of years now, for many years really. And the results that they're producing are amazing. I'm a naturally curious and very self-observant person. And when you combine those two skills, they've allowed me to look at everything that's happened in my life from the angle of an observer. And it's driven me to understand what works and what doesn't work and why. And it's also allowed me to have a look at the numerous successful people that I've been fortunate enough to know throughout my life and understand what drives them and why. I've had the opportunity to interact with the CEOs of some extremely large companies. I've had the opportunity to talk to people who have had relationships that have lasted 30, 40, and 50 years. It's just amazing what I've been able to learn simply because I was really curious and very observant about what was going on. The truth is, though, I can't take all of the credit for it. It's also come from years and years of reading hundreds of books and spending tens of thousands of dollars on training courses and programs. And then what I've done is I've actually taken the best of those programs and everything else that I've learned. I've tested it all. And I don't know if you have a company called John West in the States, but over here their motto is reject everything that's not right and just use the best. And that's what I've done with this 5-step program. I've rejected everything that didn't work and just kept exactly what did. And then I tested it even further, both in my life and working the process with my private clients to make sure that each of the stages in the process work really well. And as it turns out, well, the 5 steps for a wealthy and abundant life on all levels, financial, emotional, and professional, is really actually quite simple. And it's really obvious. In fact, it's so obvious that most people don't even see it. Let me give you an example. I don't know if you've ever been in a supermarket looking for an item, and no matter how hard you try to find it, you can't. So you ask someone for help, and the shop assistant shows up, if you're lucky, to show you where the item is. And it often turns out that it was staring you right in the face the whole time. Perhaps right now you might be looking for financial success or that relationship that you really want or the health, and you may be finding it really hard to get. The first reason why it eludes you is because it really is obvious and it really is staring you in the face. So let's get started right now with step 1 on the process. And it hangs on your most closely held beliefs. And this is how it works. Lots of people have believed something with an absolute conviction in their life. And they've believed it only to find out sometime later that what they thought was true was in fact not true. We only have to go back a few hundred years to see an example of an incorrect belief that affected the entire planet. People of that time believed beyond any doubt that the sun actually revolved around the earth. Imagine what that would be like for a moment, what it really would have been like. What everyone believed about our place in the solar system was in fact absolutely wrong. Yet most people believed it with total and absolute conviction. When you think about that, do you think it's possible that the astronomers of that era might not have been able to understand or explain many of the occurrences that happened in our solar system simply because all of their theories were based on a belief that was in fact incorrect? Now, here's the most important part. They believed in that so strongly that they never actually thought to question it. Well, eventually they did, but for a long time it was just taken for absolute granted as being true. And what if you were struggling to achieve that financial security or attract that ideal relationship? And what if the reason you haven't achieved it yet is because the belief that you have, or one of the beliefs that you have, might in fact not be true. And it's actually causing you to act and behave in a way that's preventing you from creating those things in your life that you want. So the first step in my process is understanding that what you believe to be true might not be correct. And the stronger you believe it to be true, the less likely you are to challenge the validity of the belief. Now, what I'm asking you to do is not just know that some beliefs are holding you back. What I'm actually asking you to do in this first step of the process is to begin to challenge everything that you believe to be true about yourself and about how you fit into this world. If you can do even just this first step in the process, you'll be actually taking an enormous leap forward. And what I want to do is, I want to give you a simple exercise that you can do that's going to help you with this first step. And I call it the but because exercise. That's but as in B-U-T. So what I'd like you to do is to listen to what you are saying to other people and what you're saying to yourself in terms of your self-chatter. And when you hear yourself saying the words but or because, I want you to challenge the validity of the statement that actually follows those words. Here's a real life example to give you an understanding of what I'm talking about. I was working with a client who is very passionate about using her tapping skills to help people clear headaches and migraines. And she's been studying tapping for many years and practices with huge success on her friends and family. In fact, one of the sessions that I had with her, I had a headache and she actually cleared it for me in less than a couple of minutes. It was a pretty amazing experience. She wanted to get a business started, helping people clear bad headaches and migraines, and obviously she wanted to make some money from that process. What I was interested in doing was understanding why she hadn't actually already started the business, because it seemed to me that she had all of the skills that she already needed. So what I did was I went looking for her but and because. Like I said before, listening for the but and because will reveal the statement after that needs to be challenged. So I asked her why she hadn't put an ad in a local paper and just started taking clients. And she said, I'm going to do that, but I just can't at the moment because I still have 2 more courses to finish before I'll be good enough to charge for the service. And on the surface, that might sound like a really valid reason. The fact was that she had been helping people successfully for years. And her belief was that she wasn't good enough to actually charge for that service. She believed that she needed to do more study before she was good enough. The truth, though, was that she was, in fact, already good enough to start charging for it. And she could have started charging for it months earlier, if not maybe even up to a year earlier. The thing that stopped her, the single thing that stopped her, was her belief. She believed beyond any doubt that it wasn't good enough, or that she wasn't good enough to charge. And she believed it so strongly that she didn't stop to challenge it. She didn't even think of challenging that belief. But if she had challenged that belief, then she would have started promoting her talents and running a successful business much sooner. So as I'm telling you this story now, you might actually be thinking this step in this process won't work for you, or that it sounds good, but it won't work for you because of X, Y, or Z. It may well be that those beliefs that you have are preventing you from achieving your goals. The words but and because are simply a red flag to you to highlight that you should be paying attention to what you're about to say after it, so that you can ferociously investigate the real truth of what you believe. And when you do that, you may well find that there is no validity in that belief. And by challenging that belief, you may well then be able to put it aside and replace it with a more empowering one. When I do this exercise with many of my clients, many of them have breakthroughs almost instantly. Like that lady I was just talking about, Once she realized what was happening and she understood that she really did have the skills, she went on to start her business within a week of the first coaching session that we had. This process works, and it works for many very successful people, and it will work for you. All you need to do is to try it, and you'll see the results really quickly. Just remember, when you're challenging those statements that follow your button because, make sure you do it with ruthless determination. Because if those beliefs are really wrong, they will be the ones that are preventing you from achieving your goals. Now, it's easy for people to say that we have beliefs that are holding us back, or tell other people that they have beliefs that are holding them back. The real skill is being able to identify those beliefs that are not serving you, and then by challenging them, you'll be able to begin the process of changing them. And you can begin that process by using the button because exercise. That's a practical, useful exercise that you can begin straight away. You'll find it will have an enormous impact on whether you can achieve your goals or not. And I would ask you to use it during this presentation. If stuff comes up as we're going through this presentation and you can hear yourself saying but and because, challenge the belief and see where it actually leads you. That's the first step. So let's move on to step 2 in the process, which is overcoming the fear of doing something that is outside of your comfort zone. So what I'm going to do with you is share another short story to help you understand the relationship between fear and our comfort zones. And then I'm going to give you a couple of practical exercises to help you overcome that fear. I mentioned earlier that I'm a passionate skier and that there is, well, I didn't mention earlier, but there is actually very few runs that I'm unable to ski these days. But that wasn't always the way that it was. What's interesting is that I can recall the very first time that I started skiing. And I was about 16 years old. It was on a ski trip, and perhaps some of you have been on something like that before as well. We all arrived in the snowfields and hired our gear for that day. Surprisingly, or not surprisingly, no one wanted to take any lessons. We were all determined that we could work this out on our own. And of course, in hindsight, we should have taken the lessons because we would have learned much faster. But needless to say, we were confident we could do it without them. Anyway, I put my skis on for the first time, and I have to tell you, I was absolutely scared out of my wits. And I was standing on flat ground, right? There was no slope. I wasn't sliding anywhere, and I was still absolutely scared. But maybe you know what this is like. Doing something for the first time can be very scary. Or even doing something for a second or third time can be scary if you haven't done it for a long time. So all I could do was look at the challenge that was in front of me at that time and wonder how I was ever going to get to the top of the run, and then, more importantly, how was I ever going to get down without actually killing myself? The slope in front of me looked like it was almost vertical, and it felt like it was 10 miles high. In reality, it was actually almost flat. And I still go back to that same slope from time to time and have a bit of a chuckle to myself about it. The first thing, though, my friends and I decided to do was that we'd just take a few steps up the slope, just walk up the slope a little bit, then we'd put our skis on, and then we'd attempt to get to the bottom from that first few steps without actually breaking any bones. So we walked up the slope a little bit, and then with all of the courage we could muster, we stood up and we started hurtling down the slope. It felt like we were doing 100 miles an hour. But I'm sure if someone had videoed it and we looked back, it probably would have been more like 2 miles an hour. We only lasted 20 seconds before we fell over, and we were laughing at each other, probably more out of nervous relief than anything else. The fear, though, that we were experiencing was actually somewhat exaggerated because we really didn't know what to expect. And often fear can be like that, can't it? When we're moving into unknown territory and when we really don't know what to expect, that's when fear can really start to take hold. And that's all it is, really. If you knew nothing really bad was going to happen to you, then you wouldn't have a problem doing it, would you? Anyway, we learned that it might be okay to keep trying this skiing I'm talking about. In fact, we were having so much fun by that point that we knew we weren't going to kill ourselves, which was, I guess, a good thing for our parents at that time. Once you step outside of that boundary and you learn what is on the other side of that boundary, you can almost ask yourself, why didn't I do this sooner? Now, it doesn't take us too long, or it didn't take us too long before we were walking more than halfway up the slope. And every time we increased that challenge, the fear and anxiety would come back. Not quite as much as what it did before or the first time we started, but it still returned every single time that the challenge increased. You'll be pleased to know that we eventually did make it to the top of the run, and we did manage to ski to the bottom. Well, probably skiing isn't the right word. We actually slid to the bottom on our backsides, but we actually did it. And as funny as it is, as I look back now, I can still recall exactly those same feelings. And the reason I can recall them is because I still have those exact same feelings every single time I go skiing. The only difference now is that I am actually standing on top of runs that are truly vertical or almost vertical, that they drop down through tight chutes and over small cliffs. Sometimes I'm jumping out of helicopters onto mountaintops that are so steep that the helicopter can't even land on them. And yes, I'm still scared, just like I was on that very first day I started skiing. However, the challenge is so much bigger and so much more fun. It's worth it. I know what's waiting for me on the other side of being scared. I know that when I push through that initial boundary now, that there is excitement and exhilaration that is unequaled, for me anyway, in terms of skiing, on the other side of that boundary. And it doesn't matter really where you're at. It doesn't matter how good you are at something or how not good you are at something. Everybody has their boundaries. And as you step outside of those boundaries, your comfort zone that is, then there's going to be a warning beacon that goes off to alert you to the fact that you are actually either approaching your boundaries or you have actually stepped over your boundaries. And that warning beacon that goes off is your emotion, and it's the emotion of fear. But here's something that you really need to take note of. That emotion of fear, that warning beacon that goes off, isn't designed to stop you. It isn't meant to stop you from crossing over that comfort zone, crossing over that boundary. It's simply designed to let you know that you're encountering or entering an area of unknown territory. And that at that point, you should take some extra precautions as you enter that area. That's what it's about. Unfortunately, what can happen is the fear can be so strong that it gets misinterpreted. And instead of being treated as a warning device, it actually gets treated as a stop sign, and it prevents us from doing some things. For instance, it might prevent us from starting our own business. It might prevent us from talking to the girl or the guy of our dreams. It might prevent us from asking the boss for a pay rise or a promotion even. So step 2 in my process, in my step-by-step process, is to really recognize fear for what it is. It's a warning device to alert you to be more careful. It's not a stop sign to prevent you from moving forward. Okay, I promised you practical stuff because I know that that is a lot easier to be said than it is to actually be done. And that's what all my personal clients kept telling me about this step in the process. And that's why I've got 2 practical exercises that are going to make it easier for you to overcome that fear so you can really move forward. So you can talk to that girl or guy of your dreams, or ask your boss for a pay rise, or even start your own business if that's something that you wanted to do. So the first exercise is to discover where your comfort zone boundaries are, and then just to play a game to see how close you can get before you feel you have to back away. It's like kind of playing a game of chicken, but played with some caution, of course. How close can you get to the boundary before you flinch? When I started skiing, my comfort zone boundary was about halfway up a very slight slope. There was no way that I could have ever been able to jump out of a helicopter onto an almost vertical slope. But because there's something interesting. But because I kept just trying to push that boundary that I had a little bit further each time, then I was able to really expand my comfort zone so that it now includes helicopters and vertical slopes. Who knows where I'll be skiing next year? It's a bit scary, actually. I wonder what the challenge will be. So as an example for playing chicken with your boundaries, if you were approaching the guy or girl of your dreams and talking to them is way outside of your comfort zone, then what you could do is take one small step that might expand your comfort zone, then allow you to take another small step and then another small step and so on and so on. In fact, it could be as simple as maybe the first thing could be that as you're walking down the street, you just look into the eyes of some strangers and just smile at them as you're walking down the street. You'll be amazed at the positive responses that you'll get. And before you know it, you'll be wondering why you weren't doing this years ago. Then maybe what you could do is progress to just saying hello to strangers in a coffee shop. And yes, the fear will return a little bit when you start doing that. If it's a lot of fear, then just take a smaller step. All you're doing is finding your boundaries and then just starting to challenge them a little bit. It's all about taking a step towards that boundary. And then when you get comfortable with it, your boundary has expanded. Then you take another step and another step. Before you know it, you could be striking up engaging conversations with strangers. And you don't need to go from flat slopes to helicopters in one step. It took me a few years, quite a few years to get there. So take your time, find the edge and just give it a little nudge. It's exciting, it's rewarding, and when you get on the other side of that boundary and you look back, you truly will wonder what it was that was preventing you from crossing it years ago. Now here's a second technique that will help you with this, because this is a big step. A few years ago, I was watching a documentary on the power of meditation over fear. And meditation had a lot of benefits, but this documentary was particularly relating to meditation and fear. There were two scuba divers. One was a masterful meditator and the other didn't do any meditation at all. They were both put inside a shark cage and lowered down into shark-infested waters. In the documentary, you can see the sharks ramming into the sides of the cages. The scuba diver, who had practiced meditation, was able to keep his fear under control, and that was measured by his heart rate. And as it turned out, his heart rate was almost half that of the scuba diver who didn't meditate. Now, meditation doesn't have to be hard or even time-consuming, yet the benefits will give you enormous advantages. It'll be able to help you manage that fear. It won't take it away because you don't want to lose the fear. It's your warning beacon to be a little cautious, not a stop sign to prevent you from moving forward. Well, here's a second simple technique that I actually get my individual clients to do. And if you start doing this today, you will begin to reap the rewards in your life pretty quickly. It's this simple, right? All you need to do is go for a walk. And when you're walking, look at everything around you. Look at the trees, look at the leaves on the trees, see the cars that are driving by, look at the houses. Focus on seeing as much as you possibly can. You might even see billboards that you want to look at or signs on shop windows. Just focus on seeing everything that is in front of you. Then also, while you're doing that, listen to all of the sounds. Listen to the people talking, any music that you might hear playing, car noises, even the wind blowing through the trees, or gates and doors opening and closing, or even dogs barking. And smell everything that you can smell. When you focus on smelling things, sometimes you can even smell the rain in the air, or flowers, or the perfumes and aftershaves of the people that are walking past you. And then feel everything as you're going for this walk. What does the ground feel like under your feet? What does the wind feel like on your face? What do the clothes feel like brushing up against your skin? I call this a senses walk, and it's a very powerful form of meditation. In fact, one of my clients has fibromyalgia, And she's been doing this now for about 4 or 5 weeks, and she has already started to feel so much better in the mornings when she gets out of bed. It produces amazing and powerful results. What you're doing is you're exercising your mind muscle as well as your normal body muscles. You're learning to manage your thoughts so that you can consciously focus on the things that you want to focus on, and you can let go of all of the self-talk that might be holding you back. While you're looking at the trees, listening to the birds, smelling the perfumes and aftershaves, and feeling the wind in your face, you're actually living in the moment, and you're allowing just to take in what's happening in that moment. And in doing that, you're taking control over your self-talk and over your emotions and over any fears that might come up. And it allows you, at the time that you need it, to be able to exercise that control again. As you do this more and more, you'll be able to manage the fear so that you can move beyond your comfort zone and expand into more exciting areas and experiences that you're going to have in your life. That fear that might be a stop sign for you now will just become a warning beacon to be a little bit cautious, but it won't any longer stop you from pushing through your boundaries. I can hear you saying that that's a great idea. And I can hear you saying, or maybe you're saying, I just don't have the time to do that. There's a belief that could be challenged, or any other belief that's actually preventing you from finding just 10 to 20 minutes to go for a walk each day. Challenge your beliefs. It's going to be the thing that makes the big difference between success and not succeeding. Challenge everything, including your boundaries. And the senses walk will help you with challenging your beliefs as well. In fact, there are so many more benefits to doing the senses walk, and also including different forms of meditation in your daily routine, that I just don't possibly have time to cover them in this training today. However, without taking away from what I've just discussed, there isn't a single day that goes by that I'm not challenging a thought that might be distracting me from where I want to go, or going for a walk to exercise my mind. And that really leads me to the next step in the process, which is all about looking after yourself first. So let me explain a little bit more. When we think about looking after ourselves first, we think that that's selfish or self-centered to do that. But the reality is that by looking after ourselves first, we can make a greater contribution to everybody around us and to the planet. There's an analogy that I like to use that explains this perfectly. I'm sure most of you will be on a flight at some stage in your life. And you know, just as a plane is leaving the airport and preparing to take off, the cabin crew come out and they deliver the flight safety instructions. They go through the whole thing about seatbelts, about life jackets, and then almost at the end they talk about what happens if the oxygen masks drop down from the ceiling. The crew tell you that you must put on your oxygen mask first before you attempt to help anyone else. And there's two really good reasons for telling you to do that. The first is, if you attempt to help anyone else around you before you put on your own oxygen mask, then you're only going to be able to help one or two people before you actually pass out. Whereas if you put your oxygen mask on first, if you look after yourself first, then you'll be able to help many more people simply by the fact that you're able to keep breathing and you didn't pass out. The second reason that they tell you to put yours on first is because if you don't put it on and you do pass out, not only will you not be helping anyone else, you will have become a burden on everyone else on the plane. When you think about it, life is exactly the same as that. If you don't help yourself first and take care of yourself first, then whatever you're doing becomes unsustainable. And it therefore significantly restricts the number of people that you're able to actually help. Now, when I'm talking about helping others, I'm not talking about donating huge sums of money or huge amounts of time to charity or some of those really big things. And there's nothing wrong with those. If you can, you should do them. But the kind of helping I'm talking about here is helping others in very powerful ways can be things like loving and supporting your partner. It can mean showing your children how to live happy and fulfilled lives. It might mean being an awesome, supportive worker for your colleagues at work, or even a great volleyball or baseball or basketball coach for the local team. It means inspiring others to create their businesses or inspiring others to be fit and healthy. Helping other people comes in thousands of different and simple ways. And one thing is for sure, if you don't look after yourself, you'll be restricting what you can achieve and how much of a contribution you can give back in any one of 1,000 different kinds of ways. So don't think helping yourself first as being selfish or self-centered. Again, challenge every belief. Many of them will be true, which is awesome, but some of them won't be true. And it's those beliefs that are the ones that are holding you back. There's another reason why you should help yourself first. If you don't look after yourself first, and it happens that what you're doing becomes unsustainable, then you'll be one of the people who needs help instead of one of the people that is able to help. And I can tell you, I've been in both of those places, and it's a whole lot more fun and enjoyable to be in the place where you're inspiring people rather than being a burden on them. Okay, so now we've covered the first 3 steps in the process, and before we go any further, I want to give a quick little summary of what we've discussed so far. Step 1 is to challenge every belief using the but and because process. Step 2, accept that fear is a normal part of life and that it is only a warning sign to be careful, not a stop sign. Use the senses walk and play chicken with your comfort zone boundaries to help you get through that fear. Look after yourself first so that whatever you do is sustainable and it'll make a much bigger contribution to the world. Let's move on to step 4. Now, I've got a simple exercise for you to do while we work our way through step 4. I'd like you to think about what the top 5 most important things in your life are right now. And as you're thinking about those, what I would like you to realize is that when it comes to creating our lives, we can only actually focus on 5 to 7 major things at any one time. Anything that's outside of the top 5 gets a whole lot less attention, and anything that's out of the top 7 gets almost no attention. So, for instance, if you wanted to achieve financial freedom in your life, and it's not listed in that top 5 of the most important things that are in your life that I just asked you to think about, then that's going to be the first hurdle that you'll need to overcome. And I'll help you do that in a few moments. Often what I find, though, is when I ask people what they want to achieve, they'll say something like financial freedom. It's a big thing on a lot of people's minds these days. And as I said, if financial freedom isn't in the top 5 of the most important things in your life, and that's what you wanted to do, then the chances of you achieving it are going to be significantly reduced. This is simply because the top 5 most important things in your life will get the majority of your attention. And if you're not giving your attention to what it is you want to achieve, then there's a very limited chance that you're going to achieve it, or it's going to be a lot of work to achieve it. So, is what you wanted to achieve in your top 5, is what you were thinking of, did that appear in your top 5 list? If it's not there, that's okay, because we're going to go through it in a moment on how to change that. If it was in your top 5, there is still one more check that you need to make. Often, what we think at a conscious level are the top 5 most important things are not the same as what we believe at an unconscious level are the top 5 most important things. Let me give you a real life example to explain that. I was talking with a client the other day who wants to be financially independent in their life. So I asked her what her top 5 things were, and she said her health, her financial freedom, that's good, it's there, helping others in some way, her friends, and her spirituality. Now, just for the record, I don't make any judgments about what anybody's top 5 are. That's really a very personal and individual thing, and you don't have to share that with anyone. I'm only interested in finding out what they are when I work with my clients so as I can help them achieve whatever it is that they want. It seemed on the surface that financial freedom was in her top 5. So you might think that this part of the process was all covered for her. But the next question I asked her was to tell me what a typical week looked like for her in terms of what she actually did during the week. Now, she said that she went to work each day. That's good. When she got home, she spent some time on Facebook and doing emails. She cooked dinner, she cleaned up, she watched TV for a little while, and then she went to bed. Then started the same process all over again the next day. On the weekends, generally, she would clean the house, do the washing, do more Facebook, do more emails, usually go out with her friends once or twice, and spend some time on the internet reading some of the courses that she'd actually subscribed to. There's a very big difference between what she consciously wanted to be important to her and what was unconsciously important to her. Remember, she said she wanted financial freedom, but she wasn't spending any time doing any work on financial freedom. Remember, she said her health was really important to her, but she hadn't actually spent any time working on her health as well. Now, I'm not being critical, and my role is to help people achieve their goals. That's why I'm asking these tough questions and why you should be asking these tough questions of yourself. And I explained that to her, and she completely understood it. So the question is for you, does your activity, what you actually do during the week, match what it is that your top 5 things are? And if it doesn't, that's a sign that your unconscious top 5 things are not the same as your conscious top 5 things. If that's you, then here's a technique that'll work well for you. Remember, these techniques that I'm telling you about to help you with these processes, I've tested with many of my clients and I've refined them so they work. If you're feeling that they might not work, I'm asking you to challenge that belief and try these processes and see what a difference it'll make for you. What I want you to do is to write out your top 5 list and make sure you include in your top 5 list what it is that you want to achieve, if it wasn't already in there. Then what I would like you to do for this exercise is, whenever you're about to begin doing anything, ask yourself, is this going to help me achieve what is most important in my life? All right? I do this every time I start a new task, and it is extremely productive and very effective. I find that I'm only working on the things that are really important to me. And I find the things that are not important to me at an unconscious, or the things that aren't important to me at an unconscious level, I'm not doing. So I'm consciously controlling my activity to make sure I'm doing the things that are important to me, simply because I'm being observant about what's going on. Before I start any task, I ask myself that question. Is what I'm doing going to help me achieve those things that are most important to me? And remember, you can change those at any time you like. There's no reason to say, what's my top 5 today has to be your top 5 tomorrow or next week or next year. You can change it. And you might want to make number 4 or number 5 something flexible and variable, so you can, when you achieve one goal, you can move it on, replace number 4 or number 5 with a new goal and just keep working on it. So just to summarize that step, check to make sure that what you want to achieve is in your top 5 most important things, and that it's actually reflected in what you do each week and each month. Now, everything up until now has been talking about getting your mindset right. And really the truth is, that's the key part in my 5-step process. Without the right mindset, your ability to achieve your goals will be significantly reduced. And I'm not going to say it's impossible, because I don't believe anything's impossible, but it will be a lot harder than what it actually has to be. But having the right mindset is actually not enough on its own. You also need to develop the right skill set. So let's talk about that now, creating the right skill set. Anything that you want will actually require that you do something. Sometimes it might be a lot, sometimes it might not be very much. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to do something. And it may only be thinking about something that you have to do. but you still have to take or do something. One thing's for sure, the more effective and efficient you are at what you're doing, at that something that you're doing, the easier it's going to be and the less amount of energy that you'll need to expend to achieve your desire. So let me give you an example. Last week, I was talking with someone who wanted to start their own business. They'd come into some money and it was almost all gone because he'd been working for several years on a number of business ideas and had not had any success. This was his final attempt before he had to actually go back to work. He had about 6 months of cash left in his bank. And once that was gone, he was back to work. Now, I went through my process with him of checking his mindset to make sure that there wasn't any help needed in that area. Wanted to make sure his mindset was right. And for the most part, he was challenging his beliefs. He was pushing through his boundaries, and he understood that taking care of himself first, what that meant in the context of what he was trying to achieve. And he had his goal correctly set in terms of what was important to him in his life. So the next thing that we focused our attention on was the question of, does he have the skills that he needed to make this business work? And as it turned out, he didn't have the selling skills that he needed. Now I could tell when he came to this realization, he became fairly emotional because he put so much effort in and made so many sacrifices to get to where he was, only to find out that there was a skill missing that he didn't have. And he was pretty concerned that now that he had to go and learn a whole new skill set before it could all work for him. Fortunately, for him and for you and for everyone else, there really is a simple technique that you can employ to learn the right skills quickly and easily. And this is what I teach my private clients. And I'm going to share that with you in a moment as well. I want to quickly talk about another example first, though, and this is a really important one. When we think of skill sets, many people think of things like being able to manage a business or to be able to build a house or fix cars or invest in the stock market, or in general, they think of work kind of related skills, doing things kinds of skills. But there's another skill set that many people overlook, and that's the skill set to build relationships with people. I'm not just talking about life partner relationships. I'm also talking about work-colleague relationships, parent-children relationships, children-parent relationships, friend relationships, and even customer relationships. Building these kinds of relationships is a skill, and it can be learned. And if you were really to think about it, almost anything that we do only happens because other people are involved in it. And your ability to be able to build relationships with other people can have a huge impact on how fast you achieve what it is that you want or desire. Imagine having the skill to reignite the passion and the romance in your relationship that you actually had when you first met. Now that's a skill you can learn. Imagine having the kind of relationship skills that would influence people around you in a way that would help you achieve your goals instead of those people potentially hindering you. I believe that this relationship skill is one of the most important skills that you can learn. So, with that said, what is this simple technique that you can use to learn almost any skill quickly and easily? Well, the technique is called modeling. And really, that's just a fancy word for copying. Really, unless you're trying to propose a new theory that explains the relationship between matter and energy, or trying to explain what dark energy is, then there's a pretty high chance that whatever it is that you're trying to do, it's actually already been done before. And if it's already been done before, then there will be lots of information about how it's been done, and there will be lots of people that have done it. Now, that doesn't mean you have to move your office to the library. You can seek out people, which is a much better idea, that have already done it and tap into their knowledge source. Often, many of the people that have already done it will be willing to help others achieve what it is that they've done. And it really can be as simple as asking. And many times it could be just one little piece of gold that makes the difference between success and not success. For instance, in the business example I was talking to you about in the beginning, I gave him a few little points that allowed him to book 2 clients into sessions. He hadn't booked any clients before that, and he was able to learn what he needed in less than 30 minutes in a coaching call with me. And there are lots of people out there who have done things that you want to do and are willing to help you do them. Talking to people that have been where you are now and have done what you want to do is a great way to learn those single gold nuggets that will give you the skill sets that you need. Potentially right now, you might even be saying to yourself that you don't know anyone like that. Or perhaps you're saying to yourself, I couldn't ask for someone I don't know for help like that. There's a belief that is really worth challenging. There's something that's potentially outside of your comfort zone that's worth giving a nudge. Because if you can do that, if you can challenge that belief and give yourself a bit of a push over the edge of your comfort zone, then you will learn a wealth of gold nuggets that will make the difference in whatever it is that you're trying to do. So let's summarize these 5 steps now. I haven't actually forgotten that I promised to share with you my multi-millionaire friend's secret to success. And we're going to get to that in a moment. So step 1, challenge every belief using the but and because process. Step 2, accept that any fear is a normal part of life and it's only a warning sign to be careful, not a stop sign. Use the senses walk and play chicken with your comfort zone. Have some fun with it. Look after yourself first so that whatever you do is sustainable. Step 4, make sure that what you want to achieve is in the top 5 most important things that you have a list of and that it's reflected in the actions that you take. Step 5, seek out people who have been where you have and move forward from that place to achieve what it is that you're trying to achieve, and then model them and do more than that. Talk to them if you can. Find a way. Challenge the belief. Now, we've covered a lot of ground in a short space of time. I know that it's a lot to take in as well. I'd love to be able to help everyone individually with my processes because I know they actually change people's lives. You've seen some of the many examples. It's already had an impact on those people's lives. In fact, my main aim really is to help as many people as I possibly can to have whatever it is that they want in their lives, whether it's financial freedom, loving relationships, awesome health, or all of the above. And I'm not sure what your goal is, but if you were to think about it now, and now start thinking about how you can apply these 5 steps to your life, I know that you'll be able to achieve your goals and so much more. I've come to realize that the best way for me to be able to help as many people as I possibly can is simply to give them the tools that they need and empower them to make the changes that will deliver their success.
Wow, Rick. I mean, this is amazing, this 5-step process that you've given us. And, you know, what I love about what you did is I don't even have to ask you about the amazing results people got because you shared them with us so willingly throughout. Just by the stories that you've shared, we can see how powerful each and every step of this process is, as opposed to, you know, once you put it all together. It's as if, and correct me if I'm wrong here, with each of these steps, you're going to start getting results as you go along, as well as when you use the whole system in its entirety. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. Yep.
And that's why I can see why this can help everybody do our goal, which is, you know, manifest everything now. Obviously, there's a lot to this. Obviously, we could talk about it for days on end. So there's a lot more, everybody, to learn from Rick. You know, what he does is just amazing. I asked him to create a special offer for everyone who's listening. So go ahead, click on the special offer button that's on this webpage, and we will take you right there. All right. So, Richard, let us know what we're going to find there.
Sure. Okay. Thanks, Kristen. I know that the biggest part of this process is challenging your beliefs. It's challenging your beliefs to make sure that you're not basing your actions on a belief that's not serving you. and that will ultimately prevent you from achieving your goals. Now, one of the tools that I provide my private clients with is my Success Accelerator subliminal videos. And the reason that I give them this is because those videos take away a huge amount of work in terms of challenging your beliefs. You see, what I've done is I've designed them so that you only have to watch them for a few minutes each morning and a few minutes each evening. And they'll go to work directly on your unconscious mind, removing all of the beliefs that are not serving you and replacing them with the beliefs that will empower you to success. Try for yourself and see just how powerful these things are and how easy it will become to take that first step in the process. If you like how powerful and simple these videos are to use, you'll be able to purchase them at half the regular price. And I'm also going to give anyone who does purchase them, even at half the regular price, which is outstanding value, I'm going to give them the first month of my Breakthrough to Brilliance program for free. And in that month, people will be given some very special guided meditations and visualizations to actually overcome their fears, to remove limiting decisions, and to get motivated. So, wow. If you want to find out about our special half price offer, then just go to the link that Kristen was talking about before.
This is an amazing package that we've put together. So go ahead, click on that special offer button, and you'll see for yourself.
And Rick, is there more that's there? Because if not, I'm going to ask you for that millionaire tip that you were going to give us.
Sure. I'll give you the millionaire tip now.
Okay.
Well, what actually happened was when I asked the question to Fred, he said, a huge smile came across his face, right? And he said that he could see that you have big plans and he could see that you deserve to have them. And he said that I know you are going to achieve them. He went on to say that he'd been bankrupted 3 times in his life and that each time he kept fighting his way back until he finally succeeded. He said that the secret to success is to never, ever give up on your dreams, to keep working at them no matter what happens, and to know that you can and you will achieve them as long as you can keep the faith and hope that you can do it. I really have applied that to every area of my life, and it has served me so well. It's just been amazing. Thanks for the time, Kristen, to be able to talk to everyone.
And Rick, just let me ask you one more question because I think that's so powerful what you just said. And everybody, Richard, he's the real deal. And he, when he talks about accelerating your success, he's not kidding about it. So do go check out that link. The one thing that people will definitely want me to ask you, what could they start seeing in terms of results right away when they start working with the stuff, especially the tools that you have to sort of in minutes a day tap into that unconscious mind? What's something that they could expect to see right away?
We say that you need to watch the videos every morning and every night for about 30 days for it to be able to fully impact on removing the beliefs that aren't serving you. But what we find with people is that even the first time they watch them, they feel more motivated and they begin to feel better about themselves and where they're at. And that can happen in the first day. And naturally, we say that results aren't typical and so on, and we say it takes 30 days. But I have to say, don't be surprised if you do it. Start watching the videos, and within the first day, you start to begin to feel better. And then you'll begin the process of seeing all of the opportunities that you need to be able to change or achieve what it is that you want. Because when you clear those beliefs out that are holding you back, that's exactly what happens. One of my favorite sayings is from Wayne Dyer, and he says, when you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at will change. And when you clear your beliefs out, you'll be changing the way you look at things.
I love that. Everybody, what Richard gave us today is just so immense and huge. And so I'm so excited for you to be able to go and work with his stuff more in depth and use that Success Accelerator and all of that good stuff. Thank you so much for everything you shared with us today, Richard. And I so appreciate you. to give it to you in your ski terminology. Hopefully we'll see you on the slope soon.